right, guys. Welcome back to another live show. Hope everyone is doing all right. Hello, everyone in chat. We've got just two people in there. Hello, Sandra Piper, of course, as always. Got a pretty interesting show lined up. I hopefully that you guys find interesting. Of course, by the title, I don't know why it spell checked it and it messed it up. I didn't notice it until then. It's supposed to be Mark Twain. Oh man. Anyways, it's been a long day. Yeah, Mark Twain's interview with a wild man, an interesting article that he wrote. I'm going to be getting that pulled up, and this was written in September 18th, 1869. It's a pretty interesting thing. I thought you guys would enjoy. So we're going to actually read about that, and then we're going to deep dive into some of the things surrounding that, I guess, and then we're going to take a look at some infamous Native American stuff that you guys probably already know. So let me just make sure I got these articles right. And anyways, I don't get my phone. Give me 1 second, actually. But I do have everything pulled up, ready to go. I'm excited and stuff. I was listening to a little bit of Nikki's live stream she did earlier today on her new with her with her new channel and stuff. So if you guys haven't checked that out, make sure you go over and follow the links and check it out. Yeah. There we go. All right, so let me get this up and running. And there's a couple different websites that I could have used, but I used Squatch Canada's article on it and stuff. They have a little PDF that's pretty good. So I figured I'd just show that. All right, so let me make this a little bit bigger, I guess, for you guys. Mm-hmm. All right, so Mark Twain, one of America's most famous writers, wrote a mock interview with a wild man that appeared in the Buffalo Express, New York, September 18th, 1869. So we're going to read the article first, and that is, and then see what you guys think. All right, so The Wild Man Interviewed by Mark Twain. There's been so much to talk about. There has been so much to talk about the mysterious wild men out there in the West for some time that I finally felt it was my duty to go out and interview him. There was something peculiarly and touching romantic about the creature and his strange actions. According to the newspaper reports, he was represented as being hairy, long-armed, and of great strength and stature, ugly, cumbrous, avoiding men, but appearing suddenly and unexpectedly to women and children, going armed with a club, but never molesting any creature except sheep or other prey, fond of eating and drinking, and not peculiar about the quantity, or character of the beverages and edibles, living in the woods like a wild beast, but never angry, moaning, and sometimes howling, but never uttering articulate sounds, such was old Shep. Sorry, I get a little nervous again reading and stuff, if you guys noticed from the last show. So just bear with me. Such was old Shep, as the papers painted him, I felt that the story of his life must have been a particularly must. I felt that story of his life must have been a sad one, a story of suffering, disappointment, and exile, a story of a man's inhumanity to man in some shape or other. I long to persuade the secret of him from him. Since you say you are a member of the, so this is when the wild man is going to be talking to Mark interview and stuff. All right, sorry for that. Let me get back to this article. Since you say you are a member of the press, said the wild man, I am willing to tell you all you wish to know. By and by you will comprehend why it is that I wish to unbosom myself to a newspaper man when I have so studiously avoided the conversation with other people. I will now unfold my strange story. I was born with the world we live upon. Almost. I am the son of Cain. What? I was present when the flood was announced. Which? I am the father of the wandering Jew. Sir? I moved out of range of his club and went on taking notes, but keeping a wary eye on him all the while. He smiled a monotonically smile and resumed. When I glance back over the dreary wastes of ages, I see many a glimmering and mark that is familiar to my memory. And oh, the leagues I have traveled, the things I have seen, the events I have helped to emphasize. I was at the assassination of Caesar. Ugh. I marched upon Mecca and Moab. I was in the Crusades and stood with Godfrey when he planted the banner of the cross on the battlements of Jerusalem. One moment, please. Have you given these items to any other journal? Can I? Silence. I was in the Pinta's shrouds when when America burst upon his vision. I saw Charles the First beheaded. I was in London when the gunpowder plot was discovered. I was present at the trial of Warren. I am so tired today; it's unbelievable. I was present at the trial of Warren Hastings, and I was on American soil when the Battle of Lexington was fought, when the Declaration was promulgated, when Cornwallis surrendered, and when Washington died. I entered Paris with Napoleon after Elba. I was present when you mounted your guns and manned your fleets for the War of 1812, when the South fired upon Sutmer, when Richmond fell, when the president's life was taken. In all the ages, I have helped to celebrate the triumphs of genius, the achievements of arms, the havoc of storm, fire, pestilence, famine. Your career has been a striking one. Might I ask how you came to locate these dull Kansas? Might I ask how you came to locate in these dull Kansas woods, when you could have been so accustomed to excitement during what I might term protactic, a period not to pull too fine of a point on? Listen, once I was honored servitor of noble and Israelis. Here he heaved a sigh and passed his hairy hand across his eyes. But in these degenerate days, I am become a slave of quack doctors and newspapers. I am given from the pillar to post and hurried up and down, sometimes these stencil plate and paste brash to defile the fences of Kabbalistic legends, and sometimes in grotesque and exaggerated character at the behest of some diving journal. I attend to the Ocean Bank robbery some weeks ago, when I was hardly rest from finishing up the powwow about the completion of the Pacific Railroad. I immediately was spirited off to an atrocious murder for the benefit of the New York papers, next to attend the wedding of a particular millionaire, next to raise a hurrah about the great boat race, and then just when I had begun to hope that my old bones would have a rest, I am bundled off to this howling wilderness to strip and jabber and be ugly and hairy and pull down fences and waylay sheep and waltz around with a club and play wild man, generally, and all to gratify the whim of a bedlam of crazy newspaper scribblers. From one end of the continent to the other, I am described as a gorilla with a sort of human seeming about me. And all to gratify this coal diving scum of the earth. Pulled old carpetbagger. I have been served infamously often in modern and semi-modern times. I have been compelled by base men to create fraudulent history and to perpetrate all sorts of humbugs. I wrote those crazy Junus letters. I mopped in a French dungeon for 15 years and wore a ridiculous iron mask. I poked around your northern forest among your vagabond Indians, a solemn French Indian impersonating a ghost of a dead Dublin, that the gaping world might wonder if we had a bourbon among us. I have played sea serpent off night and woolly horse and what is it for the museums. I have interviewed politicians for the Sun, worked up all manner of miracles for the Herald, ciphered up elections returns for the World, and thundered political economy throughout the Tribune. I have done all the extravagant things that the wildest inventions can contrive, and done them well. This is my reward, playing wild man in Kansas without a shirt. Mysterious being, a light dawns vaguely upon me. It grows apace. What is your name? Sensation. Hence, horrible shape. It spoke again. Oh, pitiless fate, my destiny hounds me once more. I am called, I go, alas, is there no rest for me? In a moment, the wild man's features seemed to soften and refine, and his form to assume a more human grace and symmetry. His club changed to a spade, and he shouldered it and started away, sighing profoundly and shedding tears. Whither, poor shade, to dig up the Byron family. Such was the response that floated back upon the wind as the sad spirit shook its ringlets to the breeze, flourished its shovel aloft, and disappeared beyond the brow of the hill, all of which in strict accordance to the facts. And I want to apologize as I'm really, really tired. I didn't mean to do that. I wanted to just put me in here and have the article on right here. So again, apologize. I'm a little tired from work and working a couple a couple tens and stuff and doing a bunch of stuff. But anyways, um, if you guys could have got through that, um, they've what do you guys make of this? It's supposed to be talking about a Bigfoot, and the whole article is about a nefarious entity who throughout history, is in the middle of all these nefarious things, and now this spirit, this evil entity, is now playing Bigfoot and tricking everyone and stuff. It's basically what it is. And now of course this is a mock interview and stuff, but where do you think that Mark Twain got all this information and ideas from what a Bigfoot and were in these newspaper reports of these wild men's? It's most likely a mock interview, of course, with the wild man and stuff. Obviously, he didn't interview the wild man itself, and from like the main point of view, he's talking about the this. I mean, it's pretty hard to describe. He's talking about. Let me go over here so I can read it. He's talking about the that this Bigfoot creature, of course, is a son of Cain, the descendant of Cain, who was present there with the flood, and is the father of the wandering Jew, which could be sometimes referred to as Cain. So this is very strange, which at the same time, this, it's not out of the ordinary for maybe at the time speculating the origins of this Bigfoot creature of being the descendant of Cain, or but the style of it is very interesting. But when he points to having this job and being present at all of these historical events, and not a good way, it really just, at that point, it doesn't really seem to be anything to do with wild men and stuff, and more of this spiritual entities, or maybe this Nephilim type spirit, where this Nephilim spirits and stuff would have been kind of doing the same thing, where it was an ancient spirit that survived or was around with the flood and is around and orchestrating or influencing some of these historical events, or is present during these historical events. It is kind of really just a left turn when it comes to an interview with a wild man. But this archetype of this ancient malevolent creature who but maybe is inside of all of us and stuff, this wild man creature. I know some people, when I was reading the article, it was talking about how it's just the wild man spirit that's in all of us, that's in the presence of all these events and stuff, which I don't know. To me, it doesn't make sense. One of my buddies said that this really feels like it is a entity that did an interview with Mark Twain, and it is this evil kind of spirit, demonic spirit, talking about and doing the works of well, let's see, where did it say? Pretty much the father of Cain and stuff, father of the wandering Jew, the son of Cain and stuff. If you're biblical and stuff, some people referred that as a demonic line or satanic bloodline. All the children of Cain became civilized and made tools and smithery, but they all eventually got destroyed, of course, because they weren't supposedly they were just corrupted at the very beginning and never quite be able to be saved. The same thing with these Nephilim spirits and stuff. We're going to dive into a little bit of some of that stuff, because to me, when I read this and stuff, it's this kind of what that certainly doesn't sound like a Bigfoot that's being interviewed when it's talks about this creature spending time with the Indians and frustrated that he's now has to act like a smelly, hairy creature with a club. And in fact, it's almost like this entity hates it, doesn't, and resents it, but has to do the bidding of its master. Of course, whenever it gets called somewhere else or to a more historic, important event, it seems like obviously that's where the entity goes. But like I said, it's such a left turn from Wildman. The reports from back in the day with newspapers of these wildmans getting chased by a posse of people, attacking cattle, attacking men, tearing down fences, doing whatever. All the newspaper reports that a lot of people have seen. I do have references of giant skeletons found. I should have put up some, I guess, wildman articles of the time, but all of the indicators at the time never talk about, other than the possibility of this lost man. Is it Cain or stuff? There's some stuff referenced like this Bigfoot is a one creature. There's only one Bigfoot, and it's Cain himself. Or so there was a lot of speculation about that. But with Mark Twain's here, he really goes out into the deep waters of the rabbit hole, and I mean, I guess it's either a figment of his imagination or some spiritual entity came to him with some of this stuff, or what. So what do you guys think? I mean, in all intents and purposes, he started doing I should have pulled up more stuff. I guess on Mark Twain. I have other stuff prepared, but he did again, after he did this, he wrote this because of all the other newspaper reports of Bigfoot and Wildman and stuff that were going popular at the time. And like he said, he felt like it was his duty to do his take on it. But there's not much information, at least what I found, to where he talks more in depth or gets questioned and interviewed on why he wrote this and stuff like that. I guess I should keep looking. I would assume that there's probably more stuff like that, especially when the article came out, I'm sure, and other people, and maybe other commentary where he wrote down about his thoughts and processes on that. And there's other ones where he, like where he writes, I think it's like the old man stuff. But Texas Jack says it reminds me so much of Symphony for the Devil. But my takeaway is that is that even back then, gorilla like Wildman were a part of the zeitgeist. Yeah, and at that time and stuff, there was a lot of reports. The Americas was getting conquered. The Wild Wild West was in full swing, and there was a lot of mystery and stuff. And they obviously these things were popular, and these creatures being seen. And to me, it's just a huge left turn. And my one colleague really is adamant that this is very nefarious. This is not a good thing that is being talked about or spoken. Yeah, he doesn't feel like he doesn't know what Bigfoot is or what they are, but like if this is truthful in a sort of way, or if Bigfoot is the woo train or the woo side, spiritual entity, that most likely it's not a good thing. That all this trickery, this deception that this speaks about is more of that. It's not a good deception. Deception is never really good, and it's more of this. Some say that the Nephilim side of things, this evil entity, this demonic spirits in the woods tricking you. Just kind of like this wild man says he's that he has to do, and he detests. He's just, yeah, I am described as a gorilla with a sort of human seeming about me. He seems like whatever this entity is, if it was, let's go on the woo train for a little bit. It was this Nephilim spirit who's been involved in more interesting things like the man in the iron mask, right? A supposed legend and stuff like that. And with, some historical real things going on. But if there's this Nephilim spirit that is, has pride and stuff, which clearly it does and stuff. Now it's portrayed as this Bigfoot wild man and stuff. What would be the purpose of that? Overall, it would never be a good thing. So, but we're going to take a look at other examples of other writings and historical facts and stuff that was coming out at the same time. Giants and giant bones, and another famous story and more historical stuff that's actually been evaluated by scientific scrutiny. We're going to get into the Lovelock Caves, and we're going to take a look at some locations where giant skeletons were found in a book, The Ancient Giants Who Ruled America. There's some good documentation and stuff through there. But we're not going to do the whole book and stuff. We're just give us some examples and read some, look at some different stuff. So the whole Mark Twain thing is really interesting. I don't know really what to make of it, if you take it literally or you just think it's just a mock piece. Very left turning. I'm not sure where his ideas came from in the totality of everything. But there was a lot of spiritualism at the time, and I seen on one of the things that a lot of these people at the time, being in the elite society, having this insider information where it's kind of told. And we're going to dive into some of the Nephilim aspect and give some reference of where else do we see this potentially where wild man, that term, is used and in reference of other creatures. So let's take this down. Let me find what I want to share next, which is this. And this is going to be a passage from the Book of Giants, which is part of the Dead Sea Scrolls. And, there's only fragments and stuff of this, but there's a very interesting passage that is very interesting. And you hear these, giants, when you look up giants and stuff, a lot of mythological legends and tales and cultural stuff from around the world always depict them as kind of man-eating, never really too friendly giants who do a lot of harm and great battles with heroes and people and cultures and stuff. And most of the time they're always kidnapping females, kids, and devouring them too, which is what we hear about with the Nephilim giants. And if you go down into that rabbit hole and stuff, how that it was really a disastrous time, and that they literally ate and ate and ate and ate and ate and ate and could never get the bellies full with flesh and stuff. All right, so let's make sure I got this because I just lost it. All right, here we go. And again, I apologize for me stuttering and stuff. I feel like I'm back in grade school around the reading circle waiting for my turn to get called on. It just makes me so nervous for some reason. It's so dumb. But I appreciate everyone for sticking in there with me. Of course. All right. So this is going to be a passage from the uh, Book of Giants and stuff. Some of these fragmented scroll pieces that they have, and this is basically right. It's talking about the giants, or if you read the Book of Enoch and stuff, it does talk about these giants and the Nephilim, who are the children of the angels who came down and mated with the females that they took as their wives. The children of those angels are the giant Nephilim or Raphaim. They are described as giants and stuff, and ranging from 13 feet to couple hundred feet, everything in between, and where monsters were created and stuff too, because it says they took about animals and defiled the animals and made giants and monsters and stuff. So, but out of this, it starts talking about how the giants begin to be troubled by a series of dreams and visions and stuff. Then they eventually go to Enoch to try to persuade him to speak on their behalf. Of course, it doesn't work because these are abominations and stuff, and should be all destroyed. They do get all destroyed, but after the flood, there are some that remain and come back. And there's a little bit of ancient texts and stuff that allude to possibly them going to South America, surviving there. Satan is flying around on the flooded sea as a crow who talks to God, and then God asks, where'd you come from and stuff, and he basically says, from a place far away. But that's a lot of different rabbit holes and stuff to jump down, and a lot of stuff that's not accepted in the canon Bibles and stuff like that to find and read and find that information, some of that. So anyways, they start freaking out and stuff because they're having these prophetic dreams about what's about to come, because they're about to get God's judgment. And one of the giants, because I just lost my place, skipping around doing stuff. The giants realize their futility in fighting against the forces of heaven. The first speaker may be Gilgamesh or some other giant of this time. All right, so this is a fragment, and this is the number fragment that is given, so you can look this up. And this is what is presumed to be said before, and this is what's actually what we have translated and all that. So it says, I am a giant, and by the mighty strength of my arm and my own great strength, any one mortal, and I have made war against them, but I am not able to stand against them, for my opponents reside in heaven, and they dwell in the holy places, and not they are stronger than I. Of the wild, and then now this one has blank, but I have seen other passages, and I had a picture saved on my phone that I was going to use for the longest of time. Here it's time to use it, and I don't have it on my phone anymore. But it had this quotation, but they were claiming it was like King Og who said this. But the Book of Giants is supposedly a much older time than that. So it says, and in that picture and in that quotation, they have, the time of the wild beast has come, and the wild man they call me, or the wild man they will call me. And that is really the only reference where you have these giants and stuff. And the particular that picture and stuff with they said it was King Og, but that is a different historical time and a much earlier time frame to our time, modern times, than what this fragmented Dead Sea Scrolls would have been. But the very interesting I found interesting was the time of the wild beast has come, and the wild man they call me, in reference of this wild man, these giants. When a lot of giants in a lot of different cultures are called wild men, or these giants who are wild men because they're not civilized men. Um, is one of the only references in the Bible or in any biblical text where wild men is referenced. There's a couple of different times where wild men is have referenced, and I read an article. I don't have it ready to show where it's basically bad wild men and good wild men of the Bible, and some of the bad wild man passages is one of this, and um I can't remember the names and stuff right now, but Esau and Jacob is one of the other times where a wild man was the word is referenced and stuff. Nebuchadnezzar, when he gets transformed into a wild man, um, he actually is depicted as he grows hair and nails and teeth and becomes a literal wild man. And of course, there's that famous William Blake photograph, pitch painting of Nebuchadnezzar transforming, where some of his skin is hairy and some of the skin looks like it's falling off. And so wild man is not really referenced in the Bible too much. The Epic of Gilgamesh has a wild man type character in that. But in a lot of the old manuscripts and stuff, there's not too many references other than this. And, you know, I just found that interesting. And then I got some other stuff. Where is it? Maybe I don't have it up. It was just going to talk about different, the Raphaim, Nephilim, and the Amorites, the Canaanites, and stuff, and the different tribes and stuff, them called being called giants and stuff, and basically Moses going into the lands, and Moses taking on the army of Og of Bashan. He was king, and how his bed was a 13-foot iron bed and stuff, and ancient writings of these giants or wild men. But we're going to move over to our next stuff. And this is more of, if Mark Twain wrote this article and stuff, and, it, to me, again, it doesn't make much sense because we have historical Native American accounts of giants or Bigfoot and other things, but we're going to take a look at giants as from the Lovelock Cave, and we're going to read from what was actually wrote about them. We're going to take a look at the government documents and scientific study that was done to measure the bones found at Lovelock Cave, and then we are going to actually read from the Paiute princess and what her people's account are, and then we, I guess, are going to take a look at some other giant skeletons found in North America. And then, figure out if some of these giants, of course, that are talked about are the same thing as these wild men or a Bigfoot that we know in modern times and stuff. And I think Might be pretty interesting. All right. Don't want that. Okay, that is what I have. Let me get this ready. All right. All right, so you guys can see this. All right. All right, this is ancientorigins.com. They actually have a awesome Facebook group that you can check out where and Facebook page where you can read and check out awesome articles that are posted. Pretty cool. Pretty cool page and stuff. So the Lovelock Caves, a tale of giants or a giant tale of fiction. That Paiutes, a Native American tribe indigenous to parts of Nevada, have an oral tradition they told to early white settlers of the area about a race of red-haired white giants or barbarians that their ancestors referred to the Saiticha. The story was written down in 1882 by Sarah Winchuma Hopkins. I'm butchering that. Sarah Hopkins, daughter of the Paiute Indian chief, in her book Life Among the Paiutes, Their Wrongs and Claims. These giants were described as being vicious, unfriendly, and cannibalistic. In the story, the Paiutes speak of a great battle that took place which led to their extermination at the site known today as Lovelock Cave. During the early part of the 20th century, archaeologists found thousands of artifacts inside the cave, leading to a lengthy excavation of the site and speculation that the Paiute legend was real. And there is Sarah herself and her father. Yep. And so the Paiute legend of the Lovelock Giants and their massacre at the Lovelock Cave. Saiticha or Sedeca literally translate as Tulu eaters in the Northern Paiute language. Tutuli is a fibrous plant which, according to legend, was woven by giants into rafts in order to escape attacks by the Paiute. They used the raft to navigate across for what remained then of Lake Lenaton, an ancient lake that once covered most of northern Nevada during the last ice age. That's a pretty significant, interesting fact here, as we're about to. I'll talk about that here in a minute. And then here is more articles, of course, that pop up. Ancient Giants of America, Suppressed Evidence, Ancient Race of Giants. So these are actually stuff that popped up on this one because they pop up at random, because when I looked it up on my phone and I checked it up, they didn't pop up. So I'm pretty glad, because there are different stuff we could go down. All right. As the Paiute tale goes, after years of warfare, all the tribes in the area joined together to rid themselves of the Saiticha. One day, as the tribes chased down the last remaining red-haired giants, they took refuge in a cave. The Paiutes demanded their enemy to come out of the cave and fight, but the giants refused. The coalition of tribes proceeded to shoot arrows at them while starting a large fire at the mouth of the cave. The smoke drove out a few who died in a hail of arrows, while the rest were all either burnt alive or asphyxiated. Over time, the entrance to the cave would collapse, leaving it accessible to only bats and cut off from human contact. Of course, there's a infamous photograph. Lovelock Cave, also known as Bat Cave, Horseshoe Cave, Sunset Guano Cave, and Indian Cave, is located 20 miles south of modern-day Lovelock, Nevada. It is a very old cave that predates humans on this continent, and in prehistoric times was underneath Lake Lunaton. In 1886, a mining engineer from Lovelock named John T. Reed was told of the legend by local Indians who took him to the site to prove it existed. Reed was unsuccessful in getting an archaeological dig started immediately, but two miners, James Hart and David Pugh, realized the value of guano as an ingredient to gunpowder and created a company to start digging it out in 19. See, that's the problem is, you can't, it's hard to actually get something scientifically started, but hey, if you want to start making money and cashing in, that's the way. So they stripped a layer of guano from the cave approximately 3 to 6 feet deep using picks and shovels with little regard to artifacts or bodies, because there's evidence that there was a lot of different stuff that they disregarded, and shipped 250 tons of it to the Hawaiian Fertilizer Company in San Francisco. Archaeological exploration at Lovelock Cave. Alfred Kroeber, founder of the University of California Anthropology Department, was contacted by Hart and Pugh and when they reported finding prehistoric artifacts. When they finally found too much of it, I would say, because they dug and disregarded a whole crap load of it. But when they got towards the back of the cave and they're finding bodies and artifacts, that's probably when they're like, we might get in trouble for this. So this spurred the first archaeological dig of Lovelock in 1912, led by L.L. Loud, also of the University of California. The second dig took place in 1924. After finishing the excavation, Loud collaborated on a report that was published in 1929. What Loud found was nothing short of amazing. Approximately 10,000 archaeological specimens were uncovered, including tools, bones, baskets, and weapons. According to the report, 60 average height mummies were unearthed. I have reports of... Anyways, duck decoys among the oldest known in the world with feathers still attached. That's pretty interesting key right there. And sandal over 15 inches long were excavated. Donut-shaped stone with 365 notches carved along the outside and 52 corresponding notches inside was found, which some scientists believe is a calendar. Interestingly, a radiocarbon dating done on the follow-up visit found vegetative material dating back to 2030 BC, a human femur dating back to 1450 BC, human muscle tissues dating to 1420. If you took a sample from a living seal right now, you would get the same results. There's a lot of different conjecture on how accurate radiocarbon dating actually is, but archaeologists concluded from this that human occupation of Lovelock Cave by this culture started around 1500 BC. Today's anthropological, I'm just going to skip that because I'm stuttering so much. Call the people who lived in the era of the Lovelock culture, with the period lasting some 3,000 years. Many archaeologists believe that the Lovelock cave culture was replaced by northern Paiutes. I'm sorry. I'm a little tired. My mind is trying to race in speed and read as fast as I can, and my mind is trying to be slower, and it is not. It's not working out as the way I thought. All right, so exploring the Lovelock giants and their remains. There's some debate to the veracity of the claims made regarding the Lovelock giants. During the initial excavations, there were reports of mummified remains being found of two red-haired giants. One was a female, 6.5 feet tall, and the other was a male, over 8 feet tall. However, no such evidence remains. In Sarah Hobson's book, Life Among the Paiutes, Their Wrongs and Claims, she does not mention giants, but does refer to so-called barbarians. Skeptics claimed that chemical staining by the earth after burial was likely reason for why mummified remains have red hair instead of black, like most Indians in the area. A study done by the University of Nevada indicates the giants were about 6 feet tall and not up to 8 feet tall. That has been claimed. To others, uncovering of a 15-inch sandal at Lovelock Cave is proof enough that Paiute tale is real. In the article published in the Nevada Review Minor in 1931, in February and June of the same year, it was reported that two very large skeletons were found in the Humboldt Dry Lake bed near Lovelock, Nevada. One of these Lovelock skeletons was reported to have measured 8.5 feet tall and was later described as having wrapped in a gum covered fabric similar to Egyptian mummies. The other is supposedly nearly 10 feet tall, 10 feet long. These are the duck decoys found in Lovelock Cave. Very interesting. Linking the giants of Lovelock Cave with the Urso Indians of South America. Some other evidence for Lovelock giants include a set of images showing a handprint more than double the size of a normal man's on a stone boulder in the cave, which was released by Bigfoot investigator M.K. Davis in Don Monroe. And why? I'm not sure why that's not. But you can go to M.K. Davis's channel, which is was it Green Wave something number if it didn't change it yet. But you can find the video that Don Monroe and him did, and more recent interviews, because Don Monroe supposedly is the guy who went down there, went to the museum, and got the photographs of the giant the heads of the skeleton skulls, and he said himself that you could put the skulls of these giants over your own head like a helmet, and he was very adamant that they're real and that these giant skeletons were in the back of this museum. And after he came out with that and the photograph, which is the famous one, which I guess I'll pull up real quick, the bones were locked up even more or destroyed, or never. The real giant bones were taken off, and the fake human bones were put on display, and the narrative of the normal sized natives. There is an article where the University of Nevada's findings and stuff, where they actually tested it and measured the bones and came out with actually how tall they are. I do have that pulled up. We can skim to where there's the findings were, and because they concluded they weren't giants. They concluded that they were just under 6 foot. I don't want to. I clicked on the picture, and it's a video. I need that picture. right here. Here we go. Give me a second. That's weird. Okay. Just gonna have to, I guess, do this. I don't know why it's not popping up, not working. Whatever, it's fine. All right, so right here. Let's see if you guys can see it. All right. So right here is the photograph, one of the photographs that Don Monroe took of the supposed giant skull compared to, I don't know. I don't know if that's a normal one, but MK Davis did an interview on my channel a couple years ago, and here he fully explains. We actually go into depth of this legend, and he talks about how Don Monroe went over there, took this photograph. I think there's another photograph also, and how they changed up and went across this when they got mad and stuff and took it off display and took it from where you could even see it in the back. So the interesting thing about where is this other one? Get this up and ready. And let me share this of that ancient war on the lake and the Thule rafts that were created by the giants or this native tribe, right? Where? Okay. All right, so right here, a prehistoric shopping mall. But the main point was this ancient lake and stuff that was in this area that was long dried up by the time the giants uh, were in Lovelock Cave. Supposedly, okay, so basically the story is, and we already referenced that the Paiute people and all of the people of the area, the normal Indians, banded together and attacked these giants and stuff. And they were more giants outside of the Lovelock area to the north up this one river. There was more of them, but what happened is this tribe and stuff eventually they got and made these rafts and stuff to go fishing, and eventually all the tribes surrounded the lake and refused to let them come to shore and would shoot arrows at them as they come to shore and force them to live and die a slow and agonizing death on the lake. And so supposedly the years and years in warfare continued because this red-haired giants or these barbaric natives kept coming off of the river towards I believe it was the north. And eventually, they drove all the red-haired giants of the area into Lovelock Cave and then set it on fire. And we're going to read from the actual princess, the Paiute princess, in her book, and what she actually wrote. M.K. Davis says and thinks that the cave, and the artifacts of the cave, like the ducks, the tools, and the weapons, they are like Paiute, normal Indian artifacts and stuff, and that the red-haired giants were chased into this cave, but they were not living in this cave and stuff. Other people have speculated and think that the cave was of the red-haired giants. Those tools and these ducks were crafted by those type of giants who were, I mean, as we're about to read and stuff, and of other historical findings, there was a tribe of these rafts and stuff, and they did fish on the river and did live this kind of lifestyle. Another interesting thing is I was going to look up was the Thule plant itself, how it was an aquatic, watery plant, not really something that, you know. Anyways, I'm getting off focus for a second. So there's some speculation whether the artifacts found in the cave actually did belong to the red-haired giants that were burnt alive and found there, or if they were a burial ground of some sort where they did put some mummified bodies in there. And there's why there's speculation of normal-sized Paiute native bones being found, along with this other set of giant skeletons found and stuff like that. Of course, we don't have the official bones, supposedly, if you want to believe, the Don Monroe story, that he's seen the real skeletons and the real skulls, and they're not the ones that are on display now. If you believe that, this more of the Smithsonian hiding this giant skeletons that are found. Even Abraham Lincoln gives the Niagara Falls address, and he talks about the giants found in those mounds, those old giants who stared at the Niagara Falls as we do now. He gives reference to the giants found in the mounds in a speech, and yet officially there are no giant bones found in North America. There has never been giant skeletons found officially recognized by the Smithsonian or any. It's not mainstream. It's not officially recognized. And if you think so, you're a quack job, right? It's kind of how it's always been. All right, let's go to the next article. What am I at? An hour? Not too bad. Let's go share this Life Among the Paiute. And we're going to read for word what she says. And this is among the traditions of our people is one of a small tribe of barbarians who used to live among the Humboldt River. That's what it was. They kept coming from the north of the Humboldt River and stuff, these giants. Anyways, who used to live among the Humboldt River. It was many hundreds of years ago. They used to waylay my people and kill them and eat them. They would dig large holes in our trails at night. And if any of our people traveled at night, which they did, for they were afraid of these barbarous people, they would oftentimes fall into these holes. That the tribe would even eat their own dead. Yes, they would even come and dig up our dead after they were buried and would carry them off and eat them. Now and then, they would come and make war with my people. They would fight, and as fast as they killed one another, on the other side, the women would carry off those who were killed. My people say they were very brave. When they were fighting, they would jump up in the air after the arrows that went over their heads and shoot the same arrows back again. My people took some of them into their families, but they could not make them like themselves. So at last they made war upon them. This war lasted a long time. Their numbers were about 2,600. The war lasted some 3 years. My people killed them in great numbers, and what few were left, they went into the thick bush. My people set the bush on fire. This was right above Humboldt Lake. Then they went to work and made Thule or bulrush boats and went into Humboldt Lake. They could not live there very long without fire. They were nearly starving. My people were watching them all around the lake and would kill them as fast as they could come on land. At last, one night, they all landed on the east side of the lake and went off into a cave near the mountains. It was a horrible place, for my people watched at the mouth of the cave and would kill them as they come out to get water. My people asked them if they would be like us and not eat people like coyotes or beasts. And they talked the same language, but they would not give up. At last, my people were tired. They went back to work and gathered wood and began to fill the mouth of the cave. Then the poor fools began to pull the wood inside until the cave was full. At last, my people set it on fire. At the same time, they cried out to them, "Will you give up and be like men and not eat people like beasts? Say quick. We will put out the fire." No answer came from them. My people said they thought the cave must be very dry or far into the mountains. They never had seen the cave nor known it was there until then. They also called out to them as loud as they could, "Will you give up? Say so, or you will die. You will all die." But no answers came. Then they all left the place. In 10 days, some went back to see if the fire had gone out. When they went back to my third or fourth great grandfather and told him they must all be dead. There was such a horrible smell. This tribe was called people eaters, and after my people had killed them all, the people round us called us Sedu Karath. It means conqueror. It also means enemy. I do not know how we came by the name of the Paiutes. It is not an Indian word. I think it is misinterpreted. Sometimes we are called the pine nut eaters, for we are the only tribe that lives in the country where pine nuts grow. Like, my people say that the tribe we exterminated had reddish hair. I have some of this hair, which has been handed down from father to son. I have a dress which has been in our family for a great many years, trimmed with this reddish hair. I am going to wear it sometime when I lecture. It is called the mourning dress, and no one has such a dress but my family. And that is what she wrote. And in her very own words, again, her people did not know of the cave, and it was not their dwelling or anything in it, which contradicts what the official narrative of the story is, that these were some other tribe they were like a Paiutes and stuff, or neighboring Paiute-like tribes. One thing I did find interesting that it's very interesting, and if you think about it, is these holes that they would dig. They would dig large holes in our trails at night, and if any of our people traveled at night, which they did, they were afraid of these barbarous people. They would oftentimes fall into these holes. How fast can a couple people dig a big hole for a person to fall through? That takes some manpower and a little bit of time. It seems to me to be able to do that overnight and stuff is something that isn't demonstrated or talked about in any other Native American tribe or culture or story that I can really think about right now, right? Have you heard about another tribe digging holes to capture men in and are able to do it overnight? I mean, not that I can think off the top of my head. Maybe if we did some deep dive and stuff. Another thing is how these people are cannibals and stuff, and that the tribe would even eat their own dead, not just the dead of the Paiute. Not that they would come and dig up the Paiute's dead after they were buried, which there are reports of Bigfoot doing this. There are some reports of that Val has, who's going to be a speaker at my conference. He has some reports of families. I believe it was the son who came back from a war, and they buried him in a kind of a shallowish grave, and these Bigfoots were reported to have dug the body up and took the body and didn't give it back. And you can only presume what they did with the body. I'm not sure what, any animal that usually digs up something dead that's buried in the ground. Well, they're not going to go put it on a shelf somewhere and look at it, right? They're going to probably eat it. So I found that very interesting because there are historical instances of Native Americans in some tribes talking about cannibalism among their tribes. Here in Michigan and stuff, the Algonquins talk about in times of winter and great harsh winters that people would go mad and would have Wendigo syndrome, but that normal people would go hungry and would become man eaters and people eaters. But they're never described as digging up dead people from graves and eating them and stuff. It was more of starving survival and the Donner Party kind of someone has to survive, and it's either me or you, and versus other just dying or surviving and trying, giving into this this evil beast side, and giving into the cannibalism is something that the Algonquins talk about happening in some harsh winters. Some tribes or some sects of people would turn Wendigo, as they would call it, and just would become man eaters. Not necessarily a monster and stuff, but there are other legends of monsters and magical beasts and stuff that are Wendigos. But I know the Apache and some southwestern Native American tribes did practice in cannibalism hundreds and hundreds of years ago, hundreds of years before white settlers came, in that interaction and stuff. Also some ritualistic wartime cannibalistic practices, and the killing of your enemy and eating of a particular body part in a ritualistic setting were also semi-comic practice in some ancient native cultures in ancient times. So I found that very fascinating that they would just dig up the dead, rotting. You would, as a people, a person, you eat decaying, rotted flesh. I mean, presumably you're going to get really, really sick and potentially die. You can't eat that stuff. I don't care if you're a Native American back in those times and you lived off the land and you're eating bugs and dirt and whatever that helps, and you're not taking a bath and stuff. You don't have the gut systems in place to handle dead, rotten, decayed flesh that's been in the ground and stuff, or even Yeah. It's very weird. Very, very weird, and calling them beasts and stuff. But they were like them enough that they, the Paiutes tried to assimilate and stuff before the war started. It says that um, right here, which is again a common practice of Native Americans against other Native American tribes who had conflicts and stuff, was to intermarry and to marry and have marriages to strengthen and bond relationships between the two tribes, so there was not all out war, right? To best to avoid war was, well, let's have your sons marry my daughters and my sons marry your daughters, and now we're united in a big family. And well, you don't want to kill your family or your wife's family or vice versa. Now you're killing everyone who's related to someone who's married to someone on your side and their side. So that was actually pretty common practice, and I found it very interesting that, again, um it says it right here. My people took some of them into their families, but they could not make them like themselves. They couldn't tame them. They couldn't, adapt them to their culture and be a proper Native American, instead of this whatever barbaric, cannibalistic type of wild people or wild men or barbarian people, right? Which is a wild man. The barbarian is a wild, uncivilized man. So at last they made war upon them because they couldn't marry into the families. They couldn't get them to assimilate. Let's say they couldn't get them to be like them. And the war lasted a long time. Now it says this war lasted some 3 years, but other tribes and legends and stuff, they're talking how this took years, more than 3, 10. And like other Native American tribes who talk about fighting giants or hairy creatures or barbaric type of entities, usually it ends in the same way, where they herd all these giants or these giant bush Indians or natives or whatever evil people into a cave, and then they stack the cave entrance with fire, and they light the fire, and they kill all the people in the cave. This is a story that is not only told at Lovelock Cave, but is told at several other spots. And I remember it was I was looking at the Native American stuff when we did it with Ryan and Ryan Tremble. You had someone else talking about they were fighting many wars, and that they did this many times over to whatever kind of, it's often assumed to be Bigfoot because they're giants or these hairy creatures. But in Native American myths and legends like this, they're not necessarily describing a Bigfoot. They're not saying it's hairy creature. They're saying it's just a type of barbaric people that were savage and beastly and stuff. So it's very interesting and stuff that she said that their people didn't know the cave, and they didn't know about it and stuff, because the official story is that's a regular Native American cave and stuff from the Paiutes. All right, so let's skip this, get this down. Got that done. Got that done. Showed the picture. What else is this? The Nevada Historical Society, the government findings, and then, all right. All right. So this is the study and findings on the red-headed giants, and it is a pretty long article that I am not going to read for you guys because it does go into a lot of different interesting stuff, and it does actually make right here some of the findings right here. It has all of the giants that were found in that nearby Lovelock Cave that were historically talked about that we already mentioned. But their findings were based upon the measurement of the femur bone, the tibula, and the fibula, the leg bones, the shin bones, basically. They were saying they were basing off that, but they didn't have they only had one the shin bones to go off the measurements and stuff. They didn't have other ones. But the reason why the red-haired giants were discovered and saved were these were giant bones discovered officially in this article. Remember, not the Don Monroe picture and not what Don says that you could take the skull and put it on you, but the official narrative and the official reason why all the people who dug up these giant bones were like, oh my God, they're giant bones, is because when they were comparing the leg bones or the bones to themselves, they would stick the bone up to themselves and be like, oh my God, it's a huge giant femur or whatever, instead of and they would basically measure it on themselves without having the bones accurately in place how they should be in the human body. And so the people who found and dug up the bones mismeasured all of the bones that they found, and by 2 feet, by feet. And we were talking going from the average in this PDF file. They actually talk about the averages were 7'7" to 9 feet something, but the actual measurements which we were just seeing were just under 6 foot officially. Let me. It talks about the Paiute tribes. It talks about the findings at the Lovelock Cave. It does acknowledge a lot of artifacts were destroyed. It does talk about mummies. One child burial was wrapped in a great quantity of fishnet. Does actually talk about some interesting stuff. So right here, the results of his measurements. Reed conducted the first analysis of the person who found the bones. He had recovered by measuring the thigh bones or femora. The results of his measurements range from 14.5 inches to 18.5 inches. By estimating this length in relation to the presumed length of his own thigh bone, he calculated from his height that these individuals during their life had been 7'7" or even in 9 feet 6 inches. So he's measuring that based off of his own leg sizes, and this is what he's coming off with. Is one is 7'7", 7 feet 7 inches tall, which is taller than Andre the Giant by quite a few inches, and then a 9 foot 6 inch human. So that's what he's basing off the measurements. That's why he was saying, I found giant bones here. There's other giant bones being found around Humboldt Lake County, around all of the areas where the Paiutes said they had these stories of these barbarians. The interesting note is in that story we just read, she doesn't mention red-haired giants. She doesn't mention the word giants. She mentions barbarian people. So the official narrative story is that his measurements were wrong because they weren't scientifically accurate, because he didn't line his bones up correctly with how they're actually positioned in the human body. And when they actually looked at these different bodies found at the Humboldt Sink, the Pyramid Lake, and read what he found, and then also some of the bodies at Lovelock Cave themselves, they are just under 6 foot tall at the tallest. Of course, this is, plus or minus 2 inches and stuff. So, but just roughly just under 6 foot tall is what the official narrative story is. And this PDF file goes into a lot of different stuff and talks about how they come across it, how they finding, and then it gets a little bit into other stuff. So right here, as it doesn't only talk about the red-haired giants, it is just this one little stuff. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But so what do you think? The official narrative is real, or do you guys think that there was more going on to the story? As we take a look at more from ancientorigins.com, top 10 giant discoveries in North America, which is a pretty interesting article that we're going to kind of skim through, and take a look at as they dive into some of the stuff that we are talking about and give examples that we can show. The Iroquois, the Osage, the Tuscaroras, the Hurons, the Omahas, and many other North American Indians all speak of giant men who once lived and roamed in the territories of their forefathers. All over what is now the U.S. are traditions of these ancient giants. Over a thousand accounts of 7 foot and taller skeletons have reportedly been unearthed from ancient burial sites over a 200-year period in North America. Newspaper accounts, towns and county histories, letters, scientific journals, diaries, photos, and Smithsonian ethnology reports have carefully documented this. These skeletons have been reported from coast to coast with strange anatomic anomalies, such as double rows of teeth, jawbone so large as to fit over the face of the finder, elongated skulls, documented in virtually every state. All right, so here is a map of giant reports in North America. And I believe you can find this file on Google Earth, so you can interact and actually scroll and look into this. You can download it. Probably find it by Cree Hall on Google Maps, and it'll probably have one of these that you can hook up to. Smithsonian scientists identified at least 17 skeletons that stood at over 7 feet in their annual reports, including one example that was 8 foot tall and a skull with a 36-inch circumference, reported from Anna, Illinois, in the Smithsonian annual report of 1873. An average human skull is about 20 inches in circumference. And if we look up this Smithsonian annual report of 1873 of Illinois, that article is supposed to be in there, which is pretty interesting. It's mentioned dozens more times as the recipient of enormous skeletons from across the entire United States. And of course, what is the official story is that they take the skeletons, never to be seen again, and they cover up any evidence of, at the time, cover up any story of Native American history, Native American advanced technology, biblical ancient history in the Americas, giants being found, or these copper mounds, the copper giants. Sometimes they're found with copper axes, copper bracelets, copper earrings and stuff. One of the times there's a giant in the mound and there's Native Americans buried around them, and the giants have copper axes and stuff. So there's not just suppressing of giants and stuff, but suppressing of advanced Native American metalworking technology that, again, official narrative is Native Americans didn't work with metal until European settlers traded tin cups and stuff, which Native Americans made weapons and tools out of. So there's a lot of different stuff being suppressed. And a lot of speculation is that, they were racists and stuff. And there was a racist head Smithsonian at the time. And whatever the reason was that they confiscated. And again, none of the stuff came out. It's officially hush hush. And honestly, it would look pretty bad for the Smithsonian to take scientific and artifacts and hide them or destroy them or nefariously neglect to tell the public the truth. I mean, it seems like that's kind of hypocritical and goes against the very foundation to which they built themselves upon. Again, there must be more to the story than we know. Skeletons mentioned no longer seem to exist, regardless of their actual size, and the remaining ones that were on display were removed. Okay, sorry. Were removed and reparated by the Native Americans Graves Protection and Reparation Act, which is another key component. Is you can't even look into any mounds, even if you went into a cave and there's pictographs of giants and coppers and like all sorts of crazy stuff, and then there's this mound or a tomb or whatever. No matter what you found, as soon as you report it to authorities and stuff, the Native American and basically the Department of Interior will come in and confiscate every single thing, close it off to the public, probably shut it down, and not do any digs on it at all, and just protect it and say, this is basically we need to respect the resting place of these Native Americans, and they will not dig into it. They will not look into it. They will fine you and throw you in prison if you disobey what they tell you to do as a landowner. Say if you own the land and stuff, they might outright buy or seize that property or that piece of discovery. And that is how in modern times they still hide stuff, because if you dug into stuff and you found stuff, a little bit more than like, you can find an arrowhead, in a waterbed. You can find arrowheads in Michigan pretty easily and stuff. It's not too hard. You don't get in trouble for that kind of stuff, but you like dig into something and you find some pretty significant stuff. You find bones. You can get in big trouble real fast if you don't do the proper steps, which is contacting authorities right away. And if you take it and you try to sell it or make money, or you're going away for a long time. So there is a real tight leash around this subject and trying to find and dig in historically. It's very hush hush. The official narrative is Native Americans were, hunter gatherers, and that's all they were. They built the mounds of serpent mounds, and they did Mississippi mound culture. But that's it. They were not more advanced with that. And the Mississippi mound culture, the Copper Mound people, were just Native Americans. Copper mines from northern Michigan, from Copper Harbor. That copper from that place in Michigan is so pure and stuff that they can trace it chemically and analyze it. And they found that that copper from that particular mine in Michigan was used in the making and smelting process of Bronze Age weapons and shields in Greece. And that the only way for that copper to be forged and melted into those weapons and shields in Greece was if there was an ancient culture who mined it from Michigan and some type of trade system that went from Michigan all the way to Greece. And you can look this up, that that purity of that copper is so pure that its traced residency is that mine in Michigan. And it's an ancient mine that in modern times we mined the crap out of it when it was discovered that there was copper there. So, all right. So, while the authors certainly support this law, it does present a moral and ethical conundrum in terms of trying to ascertain the proof of everyone wants to see physical evidence of giants, physical evidence of anything. So here are some collection of newspaper article reports and stuff collaged together. As you guys can see, giant skeletons in gravel pit, lost city of the giants. Skeleton of giant found at Juniper Smithsonian gets huge Indian skull, prehistoric men. One mound contains skeleton of a 7-footer. Bones of prehistoric giant found near Miamisburg. So, these newspapers didn't just start pumping out these articles for no willy-nilly reason. No, I know that at the time, there was a lot of sensational stories and stuff like that. But at the same time, there's a reason why this stuff was in the newspaper. There's a reason why they're saying Smithsonian has this, because they had official documentation of, oh, we found these 7-foot giant skeleton in this mound. Oh, we're documenting that the Smithsonian has arrived on site or has taken over the site. They have the bones. They took the bones. Oops, they lost the bones. There's newspapers reports that happened. Everything. They find the bones. Smithsonian comes in. They take the stuff, and then they lose it. So I just can't imagine, actually finding one of these sites and then actually happening, and then it's just like, well, we lost them in the transporting back to the headquarters, and over and over and over and over and over. In this unique top 10, we look at some examples of giant skeletons that were reported from across the ancient North America. Although we will warn you that number one is so large that we admit it may not be authentic. All right, so the countdown begins. All right, top 10. All right, so top 10 is Serpent Mound, Ohio, 1890s, 7-foot skeleton. And Serpent Mound is a huge mound work in Ohio, which the solstice suns go across the snake, that it looks like the snake is actually slithering and moving across the landscape. Very significant astrological and stargazing mound setup there. And they really don't know the total significance and reason why they built this, and how they got it to do what it does so well, when supposedly Native Americans basically were hunter-gatherers and had no knowledge of the stars, no knowledge of mathematics, no knowledge of this sort of stuff that we see in other ancient cultures and stuff like the pyramids and all that. All right, so The Great Sipper Mound is a 1,370-foot long prehistoric effigy mound located near Peebles, uh, that has been thoroughly researched by Ross Hamilton, who has written extensively about its mysteries and the giants discovered in the area. Recent radiocarbon analysis dates it to around 321 BC. This puts it in the realm of the Endura civilization who were present in the area at this time. I am unfamiliar with that. But there's a lot of conjectures and stuff. I know I've heard it from, it was the Mississippi Mound Builders and stuff. They have that culture, which is much earlier than 3000 BC. I want to say like 1000 AD. In the 1890s, Professor Frederick Ward Putnam excavated some of the mounds next to Serpent Mound and found only 6-foot skeletons, but a postcard showing one 7-foot in height was recently rediscovered by researcher Jeffrey Wilson. It may have been one of those excavated by Putnam, as he was the only person to dig at the site. Ross first published this in the book A Tradition of Giants, and it clearly states it was from the Serpent Mound on the postcard. But there is still debate as to where this photo of a 7-foot skeleton was actually taken. Note that the legs are cut off at the knees, so 7 foot what we see, or is it an estimation if he had his lower legs or feet attached? Could it have been more like an 8-foot tall if the shins and feet were intact? Skeleton of mound builders, 7 foot in length. Regardless if this was found at the Serpent Mounds and stuff, if this was legitimately an official photo, I mean, I know there's no scale reference and stuff, but again, it could be something interesting, could be a possibility. Let's take another look at number 9. The CSAP Mound, West Virginia, 1959, a 7-foot 2-inch skeleton. In 1959, Dr. Donald Drago, the curator for the section of men at the Carnegie Museum, unearthed a 7-foot 2 skeleton during the complete excavation at the mound in northern West Virginia. The individual was of large proportions when measured in the tomb of his length was approximately 7.04 feet. All of the long bones were heavy. Here is a photograph of the 7-foot 2-inch skeleton with top part of skeleton burnt. And here is the picture of the ground plan of the mound showing the clay floor levels below. The giant skeleton is on the middle right. Right here. You see his giant proportion and stuff. And how they very interesting. Darago published a photo of the actual skeleton in his books, so there is little doubt if it was authentic. Darago joins many other university-trained anthropologist. Blah, blah, blah. I'm got the stutter going on. All right, who reported discovering the skeletons over 7 feet in length in burial mounds, often with anatomical anomalies. Brain wants to read other words that are not there. A few of the professionals reporting these skeletal finds were Dr. Walter B. Jones, Moundsville, Alabama, was a 7'6", and many 7-footers. Dr. Force Clements, head of the anthropologically at the University of Oklahoma, where 6 7-foot skeletons. Dr. Donald A. Crow, give me a second. Oh, sorry. As I was saying, if you look up the professionals who are named in this, along with the measurements of the giants found, I'm sure you could probably find some of the articles of these scientific journals written at the time of these late 1800s, where you could probably find some of these different professionals who wrote about their findings, I'm guessing, and stuff, right? And made published reports in these different journals. We're going to try to go through the rest of this really fast because it is getting pretty late. It's almost 11 o'clock, and I got to get up at 5:30 for another full day of hard work, good work, lovely work. And then I got to work on the car. So I got to replace the basically the wheel bearings after doing the front axles and some other stuff, you know. So yeah, I kind of try to get through this, and there was a ton of more articles that I probably could fumble and stutter and butcher to read for you guys, because my mind and the way I read without being out loud in front of a bunch of people and nervously, and what I add is I read pretty fast. My mind, I am reading fast, but when I read out loud, man, it feels like I'm in grade school in the reading circle and I'm nervously awaiting my turn. It's just this comical feeling that I'm feeling right now, and it's just like, it's been a while, I haven't felt this feeling in a long time. I used to be nervous speaking in front of people and stuff like that, but of course going live and talking about the information, you get over that really quickly. But the reading in front of people part, apparently I got some work to do, because I still feel that like little kid anxiety about being nervous to read in front of people. And yeah, it is what it is. Okay, so the mounds in Iowa in 1897, where a 7'6" skeleton were found. It is a matter of official record that in digging through through a mound in Iowa, the scientists found a skeleton of a giant who, judging from actual measurement, must have stood 7 feet 6 inches tall when alive. The bones crumbled to dust when exposed to the air. And of course, some pictures and stuff, some illustration, and there some bones and stuff that are very old and that haven't been exposed to elements actually do degrade and rapidly get destroyed, crumble away. That is actually something that does happen and is documented in many, many, many different places. All right, so Steelville, Missouri, in 1933, an 8-foot skeleton was found. It was shown in part of Search for the Giant show. Jim and fellow researchers investigated the following account. An ancient Ozark giant dug up near Steelville. Strange discovery made by a boy looking for arrowheads. Gives this Missouri town an absorbing mystery to ponder. So here is last eaten next to the floor to the 8-foot tall skeleton. So you can see that is pretty tall compared to the guy. This is a real photograph and all that. The Miamisburg, Montgomery County, Ohio, 8-foot 1.5-inch skeleton. Of course, this is by Serpent Mound, where a 70 feet tall mound with 877 feet in circumference. It's huge. And for Native American or anything that built is pretty significant because Native Americans didn't build anything that lasted. You know, they didn't build stoneworks, typically didn't build mound works, didn't build anything that has lasted in history. Again, these were hunter-gatherers with no advanced technology, no mathematics, no understanding of anything beyond hunter-gatherers and myth and legend storytelling to make up reasoning of how the world works. They didn't have Pythagoras, they didn't have Plato, they didn't have all of the stuff that the rest of the world had. And so in some of these instances, they don't understand how they made the mounds and how they made some of these chambers and stuff, some of these circle chambers and stuff that have precise measurements or stuff that lines up with solstices. They don't really have a good official narrative reasoning behind it because their official narrative is these were kind of hunter-gatherers and didn't evolve much past that. All right, so numerous skeleton remains were uncovered from the mound, including a giant jawbone and bones of unusual size. Skeleton of a giant found near Miamisburg has caused much discussion not only among the curious and illiterate, but among the illiterate and literate. Science. I'm tired. I'm getting ready for bed. But among the learned scientists of the world, the body of a man more gigantic than any ever recorded in human history has been found in Miami Valley in Ohio. The skeleton, it is calculated, must have belonged to a man 8 feet 1.5 inches in height. Again, this was at a time where they actually did do pretty significant scientific measurements and sightings. Again, the official narrative is, well, the Smithsonian just lost the bones, or they're not really real. They're just quack newspapers looking for fame and exaggerating claims of normal Native Americans found in these mounds that are pretty awesome stuff, but they're just normal Native Americans. They're not giant. And, none of them are reported as, hairy or having any type of indication that this is Bigfoot that we're looking at instead of giants, right? All right, the San Diego Giant, 1895, 8 foot 4 inch female mummy, which is a famous photograph that always comes out. This fascinating discovery reports of a giant mummy found in San Diego that is currently believed to be a hoax. However, let's take a closer look, as there are some intrigue and inconsistencies with this popular story. The first report appeared in 1895 with the headings 9 feet high, probably a Californian Indian, measurement well authenticated. Other big men and women of fact and fable who are famous types if gigantism. When accurately measured, it turned out to be 8 feet 4 inches and was carefully inspected and measured by Professor Thomas Wilson, curator of the Department of Prehistoric Anthropology at the Smithsonian Institution, and by other scientists. The San Diego Giant was purchased by the Smithsonian for $500 in 1895, although they later claimed it was a hoax. 13 years later, in 1908, when the mummy was being exhibited, the Smithsonian ran some tests and suddenly dismissed it as a hoax, saying it was made from gelatin. My brain is making me mad, actually. The fact that it took that long, and after spending $500 to acquire it, plus the fact that it was carefully inspected by experts 13 years later, does suggest that there is more to this story than meets the eye. Interestingly, Alas Heydrich joined the Smithsonian in 1903, right in between the discovery and the final debunking. He was not interested in giants and made a conceited effort to eradicate them from the historical record. It is also interesting to note that the director of the prehistoric Thomas Wilson, who we read on a different article, one of the professionals, an ethnologist in charge, were both involved in this story and were obviously keen to make sure the Smithsonian got it back to their headquarters at an immense cost, $500. But why would they have bothered to doing that if it was simply a sideshow hoax? Why would they buy it and stuff exactly? The strange twist and the Smithsonian involvement and the immense amount of money spent on it makes it worthy of inclusion in this top 10. And then there's another mummified giant was turned up by the Spiral Mounds in Oklahoma. It was 8.5 inches and was on display for a few months. I've not heard about that one. So what do you guys think? Do you think this is an actual real legit body? I mean, I kind of lean that it kind of is, because again, the Smithsonian took the body. It is kind of documented, and the Smithsonian did come out with the experts and said it was kind of real, which is documented. And then, but again, we weren't there, so how do we really know? Besides that, the Smithsonian did procure a lot of different giants and bones at the time, and this is just one of them, except for this has a pretty interesting photograph of a giant, well preserved, in my opinion, because you still kind of have skin on the face and enough to potentially hair or rags at the top. Looks like skin. I mean, you get a pretty good indication. Now, is there anything looking at this that says it's Bigfoot, right? I don't see anything that I don't see anything that screams Bigfoot other than its giant size and but the feet and the legs, even though it's a dead body and it's withered and kind of, shrunk up and stuff, they're not, it doesn't scream giant superhuman muscles. Nothing, in my opinion, other than that ugly kind of a face. It doesn't jump out as anything monstrous and stuff. I didn't count the ribs, make sure how many ribs there are and stuff like that. But if this was a giant woman out in the woods covered in hair, you would say that was Patty. So I appreciate Sandra. I feel like I'm not, but we're just going to continue with it. All right, Johnny Midnight says that the biblical giants are returning and they will come from the jungles and mountains. Steve Quayle. Yes. And again, that refers back to the Book of Giants, where one of the leaders of the giants said, the time of the wild beast has come. They shall know me as a wild man. I'm kind of paraphrasing that, giving that reference. And there is a lot of South American conquistador stories of the Spanish encountering giants of South America. Magellan actually says and wrote down, chronicled that him and his men came upon a naked giant that was laughing and dancing and throwing sand into the air and onto his head at the sight of them. And then when they Magellan and his crew went to shore, he sent some men that the giant pointed up to the sky as if to say, "Are you gods from heaven?" And there are other conquistadors who encountered giants in Patagonia. I believe was named because it was the land of big feet, the land of giants. There's other conquistadors. I'll have to go and look. It's probably going to be another show about this. South American giants and conquistador giant interactions where I can't remember which famous one, but I believe he attacked some of the Mayan cultures. And basically there was a son of a chief who was like huge, massively huge, over 8 foot tall. And basically, anyway, so long story short, the conquistadors, if the story is real, I'm going to have to look to see the official story, but they went into this village and stuff, and the chief of the natives, who all were normal-sized Native Americans, the chief and the chief's son were giant. And the chief, I believe, was something like either he was 18 feet or that was his son's size. And the chief was even bigger than him, like 20-something feet. But anyways, they tricked the conquistadors. They kind of like attacked them as they got them like a little drunk and stuff. And the chief giant fled to the mountains into the jungle and wasn't seen again. And the son of the chief stayed, and the conquistadors made war and did battle and stuff. And it was a couple of days of battle. But the son of the chief would hurl rocks, boulders, and chuck them across the battlefield and crush the conquistadors in full armor. And this guy pretty mighty in strength. So I'm going to take a look into some of those stories and accounts, because it does point to, again, them being kind of this Nephilim giant type of race of people who survived in South America, which some different shows and programs and interviews, which kind of what Steve Quayle kind of does and stuff, talk about basically them surviving the flood in South America, and the crow flying over and talking of, they survived, and how these demonic entities, spiritual entities, because when these giants died, they become these demonic spirits that are trapped on Earth that don't have any dwelling place and stuff like that. They are. There's some reports and speculation that these things died on the Earth thousands and thousands of beyond years ago, and are in this very place where you just waiting for basically people to live there, or waiting for you to build your house there. And now you have this poltergeist activity, which is this demonic entity or this Nephilim spirit. If you watch the Paranormal Activity movies, and they draw, I can't remember which one it is. It's I think it's number 3, maybe number 4. The little boy goes missing, and it's the movie after that. He comes back and he messes with the neighbors, and anyways, they draw an entity that is this demonic 8-foot tall entity, right? This poltergeist ghost and stuff. But they go to the witch's cavern house and stuff, and the entity, who's invisible, who's 8 foot tall, starts attacking people and killing them. And that is the wild man, this Nephilim spirit of the giant in demonic form, causing a ruckus. Now, some people believe that in the flesh and blood form, they are Bigfoot, wild men, or just plainly giants and stuff. And when they die, they become these demonic spirits, these entities and stuff. And there's a Native American legend here in Michigan of these mounds. Particularly, there is a circle mound in Coldwater, Michigan, that you can actually go and visit, where the natives said that there was this other people who built it, and they made war with them and killed them. And the spirits of those dead remained and haunted those mounds, and that the natives wouldn't go over there because they haunted the mounds that they built. Johnny Midnight says Nephilims were complete evil. The Bigfoots are good and bad and considered to be tribes by Native Americans. Bigfoots are different. Patagonians are large people. Yeah, again, I'm not claiming Bigfoots are Nephilim and stuff. In fact, they have a variety of different, like you said, both good and bad stories, especially with different Native American stuff. But when we were talking about the Mark Twain interview with a Bigfoot, and he talks about this spiritual entity who's pissed off and upset that he has to masquerade as this hairy, smelly Bigfoot to trick kind of dumb, people, or and overly sensationalized newspaper articles and interviewers and reporters. It's just this Nephilim spirit tricking people to believing that Bigfoot is real, or a Nephilim spirit that is trying to put out this false information that, well, these Bigfoot is just me, this Nephilim spirit, it is I, the son of Cain and stuff. To me, that interview and that entity sounds like a Nephilim spirit doing Nephilim spirit things. And then it's trying to persuade everyone that it's a Bigfoot and stuff. And so this is the big thing when it comes to the Nephilim Bigfoot thing is, if Bigfoot is a Nephilim, then what is its whole purpose, and why is it doing the things out there? Like throwing a little rock here, and I'll just make a little whoop and a little wood knock, right? If it was a Nephilim evil spirit, it's not gonna. Oh, it's not. I'm just making this little wood knock, just let you know I'm here. All of this is a grand deception to take you away from Christ, to take you away from God, and to lead you astray. That is the most simplest explanation for what all Nephilim and demonic evil spirits want to do. They want to destroy your connection with God and of Christ, and convert you to evil and turn you into something you're not, and then potentially take you over and influence you, evil possession, and all of that. So if Bigfoot is a Nephilim, the only thing and goal it has is to take you away from God and eventually corrupt you and potentially possess you and put this wild man spirit into you, the beast, put the beast into you where you become the beast, right? An uncivilized barbarian, willing to hurt your fellow man, a soulless, mindless creature who's only bent on hell and destruction and hunger, you know? So if the Bigfoot are Nephilim and stuff, then it's a grand deception going on, and it's not anything good. You know, these are very evil spirits with very evil agendas, and I personally don't think that. But there is certainly more to the mystery of Bigfoot than what's we seem to be going on. Then there's something that there's a reason why it's officially covered up still. There's a reason why there's not been a video for almost 60 years good enough to beat the Patterson film. There's a reason why we don't have significant audio. There's a reason why, you know, you go see a Bigfoot and you go chasing over the spot and there's the tracks disappear, or there's no Bigfoot over there, and you go look around and there's no places to hide. There's a reason why it's taken almost 60 years of finding nothing. You know, there has to be some other reasons, and you know, maybe it is they're just very skilled flesh and blood creatures who are more of a Native American tribe, or potentially on that scale of intelligence from a animal ape intelligence to a human. You know, they're a little bit higher on the chart than any other animal on this planet, and that just makes them unique and incredibly hard to find. Or, you know, there is a spiritual aspect, and that spiritual aspect doesn't necessarily mean evil, but I would say that the odds are greatly in the favor. If it was a spiritual entity and stuff, in my belief, there's only two things that falls. It either falls on the good side or falls on the bad side. And majority of the times when you look into cultures and they talk about spirits, ghosts, and entities like that, majority of the time they fall into the evil, nefarious category. There's very seldom amount of times where there's a friendly ghost that helps, or a friendly spirit and stuff. Most of the time it's evil, bad spirits that you get warned about or talked about. Majority of the time it's always evil spirits trying to do something, you know. So if you want to get biblical and stuff, you know, the Bible says, you know, of course, God is a living spirit, and that if you test the spirit, they should test the spirit to see if they are of Christ, and that that implies that there are spirits that are of Christ or of God that are good spirits, and it would imply that there are bad spirits. And you know, that's why I don't ghost hunt, because ghost hunting is you're going after an entity that you literally don't know, and you're messing with spiritual forces, and most of the time it seems to be demonic entity or evil spirits, negative spirits masquerading as kids, or masquerading for what reason we have no idea, but masquerading in such a way and to lure you in further and further down this rabbit hole. And so I don't research ghosts for that particular matter, but you know, the Bigfoot subject, the Bigfoot mystery, you know, I really lean to the flesh and blood and stuff, but at the same time, there are some weird mysteries out there, and I've experienced other things I can't explain, like a Dogman creature. A wolf ran across the road and stood up and ran on two legs. I don't know where to put that into flesh and blood category. I don't know where to put that if it was a spiritual entity. You know, is that again a Nephilim spirit, one of these monstrous evil things out there? Is it something else we just don't know? Is it something jumping out of dimensional portals and stuff? And there are the aliens again. There are so many mysteries and stuff that's why there's so much speculation. Well, it could be a Nephilim, it could be an alien, it could be a spirit, it could be a regular human who's just hairy. It could be a Native American tribe because we don't fucking know. And until we get a body, until we get observational research videos, hours of actual observational research where we can see them disappearing in a cloud of smoke and their spirit, or they're floating in orb, spaceship, something that confirms like, okay, this is actually happening and this is what they're actually capable of doing. And it is beyond anything of flesh and blood. We don't have anything of that. We have maybes, what ifs, I think, and a lot of people who claim to see stuff who aren't really trustworthy enough to believe, or because they don't have any of the evidence. Person who says, well, I seen Bigfoot 20 times and he flew into orb 15 times, but I never have it on video. But he comes to my favorite spot every time I go out. But I just, I want to respect and not. I'm trying to get video proof and audio proof now because we're getting some pretty good stuff of abnormal things that take place in the woods. Doesn't have to be Bigfoot, but at the same time, if there's a big, giant, hairy-looking creature, giant out there, we presume to say that's probably Bigfoot. All right, so I think we're going to cut it in for here. There's number 4 is Catalina Island, California, 9-foot 2-inch. They're 7-foot giants. Here's another photograph. Or an illustration is what that looks like. An illustration. That looks like a photograph. With hands crossed and fingers over the right eye, which is interesting. Burial. Be placed. The Beaver Creek, Ozark Caves, Arkansas. Nearly 10-foot skeletons, huge skulls. Lompoc Rancho, California, 12-foot skeleton. West Hickory, Pennsylvania, an 18-foot skeleton. They exhumed an enormous helmet of iron, which was corroded with rust. Further digging brought to light a sword, which measured 9 feet in length. Again, so Native Americans never worked with iron. They certainly never had technology that they made a helmet, an armor helmet, or any such technology to forge or even cast a sword. Casting a sword is cheaper, easier, and something that you would do before learning how to forge. Forging and all that metal technology is pretty advanced stuff. So finding a skeleton, and some of these stuff didn't have was it the rock tomb or rock? There's a place in Texas where it has this big rock wall. I think Rockwall, Texas, or something, Texas. This huge rock wall. And there was supposedly a story of a chamber found where a huge chamber where a giant skeleton was found, about probably the same size and crowned in metal and armor and weapons and stuff. That makes no sense for Native American official stories. Although it is to be noted that they have found Roman coins in riverbeds. They have found a Roman sword in Illinois, I think, right? They found Chinese artifacts here. They found different outside artifacts, out of placed artifacts in North America that make no sense. That shouldn't belong here, and that makes no sense. But at the same time, the copper mounds in Michigan and stuff, where the copper was taken, I'm gonna show that in the next show. I'll show you that it is true and stuff. That the copper from this mine in Michigan, up in the the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, in fact, was mined, and the copper is so pure that when they tested it, it can be traced back and only found in this spot in Michigan. That copper is only found in this spot in Michigan in the entire world. And they found that exact trace evidence found in Bronze Age weaponry, shields, in Greece. Totally nowhere near Greece. So there was a lot more going on, and some of these other articles and stuff that we could find talk about some of these red-haired and black-haired giants of North America built fortresses, stone fortresses, across from coast to coast, actually. And just like Johnny Midnight says, just recently there have been giant sightings in Mexico, Peru, and Canada with the YouTuber's disappearance and the Kandahar giant, of course, in Afghanistan. You can right now look up the Canada giant on the mountain. And that YouTuber did actually disappear. He was filming the mountain in what looks like a massive, we're talking like what 20-foot tall giant, not no 8-foot tall Bigfoot creature, but a giant on top of this mountain during the day. He posted it to YouTube. Then he made some other videos talking about, I think he was getting talked to. He was getting scared. And then all of a sudden this guy just disappeared. And like he's missing. And it doesn't seem to be like he just stopped doing YouTube videos and just went back to a normal life. But no, like this guy's actually missing. Maybe the government, maybe he did film something. Maybe they just was like, something, you're going to work for us, or witness protection. You got a new life because you know too much. I wouldn't say that they often, but if you, let's just say you were in the middle of the woods, all of a sudden you fell through the earth, and now all of a sudden you're in the ventilation system of a super secret high-tech military base, a black site that is not listed and not supposed to be there. You, depending on what you see and what happens, you might not ever leave that place. You might end up with a new life and family that you have to start over with. You might get some hush money, because there are certainly places and things that the government doesn't want you to see. And like all people, we like to run our mouth and tell secrets. We got to tell someone, right? We can't just hold it in, right? I got to tell someone. There are certainly places and stuff that if you stumble upon, you probably won't make it out. There's a sign at Area 51 says, all trespassers will be shot. They have the legal right to shoot you if you cross those certain boundaries that are posted. You stumble in something that isn't supposed to be there, that's even more top secret and even more, they might make you an offer you can't refuse, or they just might go bury you out somewhere where no one's going to find you. Or, knowing the government and different stuff, they would, maybe incinerate you, just throw you in a big old incinerator. And so there's absolutely nothing left. Doing something with you that, would make sure that, that's it. And then you're just one of the dozens of missing people that go missing in your state each and every year. Like nothing ever happened because, it's not a crime to go missing. In fact, you can report a person missing, but there's no crime. There's nothing behind it. I can go missing. I can disappear. Doesn't mean that nothing nefarious happens. I just decided to move and start a new life over. That doesn't necessarily mean anything. So, a missing person is just a missing person. So I think we need to change that. So I'm going to take a look at some more different articles on the Nephilim subject, a whole nother show, deep diving into the Nephilim subject, probably reading some biblical verses, looking more into the book of Enoch, possibly going because it does, whether you believe it or not, it does give a whole unique description and details on those subjects and sort of things that found nowhere else. I'm also going to do the map project. I'm going to reach out to a couple people and kind of have a episode on a particular state, but more or less experiences and deep diving into some questions about Bigfoot, or why Bigfoot's not seen as much as you would think, or why, in your experiences and your place of operation, how come you're not seeing the Bigfoot compared to Bigfoot's everywhere else and being seen by everywhere else. Or I didn't watch the show, but I was listening to this guy. I only made like 5 minutes of it, but they were talking about the past weekend. It was like the craziest Bigfoot experience, everything ever. Like, it was, off the walls crazy, stuff was happening, no evidence, no video recording, no audio, no nothing. And it was like, we're taking people out, going to this era. So it's like, if you're prepared, you already know you're going to take people out there. Don't you have gear and equipment and stuff ready to go? Why aren't you filming? No nothing. I understand I could be not filming, and then something starts happening. I turn my camera on to start film. Like, usually how it goes. And then he made the comment of, I was taking people up at the trail. Then I had this really just awful feeling, like, just feeling dread. And I really didn't want to, go up there. And I thought it was best. So we didn't go up there. And then a little bit, another minute or two says, well, we had a moose chased us out of there, like the week before. I was a little apprehensive about that, but, well, I wasn't scared. I didn't leave the area because of that. But, I just had this feeling that the Bigfoot were out there, and they were basically letting me know that it was a no-go time. And they would start talking about, well, you get that feeling that, they let you know that, this is not the time to be there. And it's like, if you did have a moose chase you out of the woods, that would be pretty frightening. And you probably wouldn't want to go back in those woods without second guessing yourself and thinking, man, there's some danger to that. So again, I hear that, and it's just like, okay, well, film the moose, film the moose chasing you out of the woods, at least, because if you can film that without pissing your pants and stumbling around and dropping your camera, I'm pretty sure you could probably film a Bigfoot that's running and making you about piss your pants and dropping your camera, stuff like that. So anyways, I got more audio I'm looking at from this last weekend. I don't know what is going on, but there's an owl that keeps hooting, and then there's some wood knocks or crashing sounds that happen after. This one recent one for last Friday, there's an owl sound. It's in the background. It's kind of far away, but there is a tree knock, and it sounds like a knock and not some of these other sounds I have. But for the most part, it's kind of a washout of all these bugs. Cicadas just going off right next to the recorder all night long. So that one is a bust. I got 2 more ready to go through and look at. I'm going to try to do a little bit in the morning. And I did find my page with all my stuff written down on 1, 2, 3, 4 different, like, 12-hour pieces of audio. One has a lot of different stuff, like I was mentioning. The other one has some pretty significant stuff, like the owls. And I got to dive into another, I said 26 hours of audio from this last weekend. That hopefully I don't have a lot of bug chatter and stuff, but that's just the name of the game. So I'm pretty excited about that. Let's go. And Mike from Abnormal Investigations, he says, it seems like I get a lot of owl sounds when it is active. Yeah, and I'll show you guys again. Probably not going to be able to hear it because I got to enhance it and all that, but I will show you. Oh yeah, give me a second. I'll show you some of these examples. I don't got my notebook on me right here, but I do have it. Or I thought I did. No. No, I moved it around somewhere else. 40, all right. But I'll show you guys this. So right here is this tree knock, and this is the owl call. You have this knock right here, and then there's another knock at 3 hours and 20-something minutes or something. But there's a lot of different stuff. And it takes a lot of hours to go through. It doesn't take a lot of hours, but it takes, a good 2 hours per, 12 hours worth of audio just to skim through it, not to actually, listen. And I should have my notes out, but that's all right. I'm going to do that on one of these other shows next. I'm actually going to present a lot of it at the Bigfoot conference, which is a good time to promote that. The link is in the description for the Bigfoot conference, the Michigan Bigfoot and Dogman conference coming up September 28th. We got 2 speakers, Val Z and Grizzly Chris from Kentucky. Both are retired law enforcement officers. Both have experience encounters with Bigfoot, and Grizzly Chris has an encounter with Dogman that he's going to share. And both are going to give their each unique perspectives on the Bigfoot and Dogman situation. Although Val doesn't talk about Bigfoot stuff, he's going to give his unique data mining and data sheets information out of how Bigfoot is not so nice and friendly all the time. He also has a very famous photograph, which I will show right now, that he took, which I think is the best photograph picture I've ever seen of Bigfoot, in my opinion, because I know what's there. I know what to look at. Val Z, who will be the speaker at my event, took this picture, which if you have trouble seeing, on the left side of the screen, there is a big fat tree with a auburn colored Sasquatch hanging off of the tree. And supposedly to the bottom right of that tree is, so right there is the auburn colored Sasquatch. And if you did a little enhancement and zoomed in a little bit, from my perspective and Val's perspective, you have 2 eyeballs, a nose, and a mouth that is clearly seen. This auburn individual is climbing in a tree in such a way that it doesn't, again, appear normal, how normally a human would. And so you have those eye sockets and a mouth right there. I did all the enhancement of this photograph that you see. Anytime you see this photograph with a red circle, it's mine. Enhancement, unfortunately, I put the red circle on one of these photographs because people were having trouble. And some people, of course, the red circle of death print on it. So some people dismiss it. And one of those red circle enhancements actually does look really good enhancement. And I regret doing the red circle. But Val likes to share the one with the red circle in his Facebook group because it looks pretty good. I've gave him other ones to share, but he likes the one in the red circle. So if you see that photograph around, that is Val's photograph, and I've done the enhancement for it. And I've been to this area. Actually, we've got activity and different stuff from this area before. I've been to basically the exact spot. So Val's going to be speaking at the event. It's only $30 online or at the door. It's only $30. I haven't changed that. I haven't made a new thing yet, but it is in Mason, Michigan. It is at the Ingham County Fairgrounds. So we got us, Val and Chris speaking, and myself, and then I think James and Tyler are going to do a little speaking engagement again and stuff, but they don't want to, they don't really care to be in the limelight of things and stuff. So, and I don't blame them. But so they're going to be doing that, and then we're going to be going to camp out afterwards and looking for Bigfoot, filming Bigfoot, doing some videos, shooting maybe some other stuff. But yeah. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the show. I know I kind of ran a little bit over, and my brain was really struggling to read and stuff. I get so nervous, so I know I apologize for that if you guys are having trouble listening to me. It is so much easier to read these articles without going live and without speaking in front of people and feeling like that that little kid at the reading circle waiting to read, and you read what you thought you would have to read, so you get prepared and stuff, and then you still butcher it anyways. It seems like I never grew out of that, so I apologize. I'm having fun. I'm enjoying what I'm doing. Hopefully everyone enjoyed that, and I implore you guys to go look and do your research on your own. Don't take my word for it. Go and look at some of the articles I looked at. Go look at some of the names that I suggested to go read of some of these people who said that they found the giant skeletons, and these professionals, these doctors and stuff, university members. Go find their scientific journal articles and go learn for yourself. Use your own brain. Don't just rely on what other people tell you, but go out there, go look for the answers for yourself. Go research, armchair research, because anyone can do it. Everyone has a computer. Everyone can learn almost any piece of information ever known in the palm of your hands in a Google search. And you kind of have to read a little bit more than one article, the first one that pops up, but start reading, getting some different sources and stuff, and using your brain to figure out and think, come up with your own opinions and theories on what's going on, what we're dealing with, and some of the stuff that we touched upon, a little darker side, a little spiritual side and stuff, because if this was ghosts and we were dealing with ghosts and you have the camera malfunctioning, right? You're always chasing after the ghost in the woods, chasing after the ghost, right? The Bigfoot is always one step ahead of you, never quite caught, always seemingly right around you and able to quickly get away, right? Some of that woo side, if you compare the Bigfoot, the woo side, to a ghost and a ghost hunt, they're about the same thing. Seems like that's what you're chasing, but it's out in the woods, which is very interesting and peculiar. Something that doesn't really rub me well, but I do know that the woods and wilderness is of God, and there is no reason to be afraid. And I feel at home in the wilderness, and is a retreat for me, a nice, peaceful place to get away from the hustle and bustle of the city, the noises of the people. And I really feel, like the woods is a very peaceful place and stuff. And but I do know that there are some dark things out there that roam around every once in a while. So you always have to be on guard, keep your heads on the shoulders, pray a little bit, and you should be all right. And no matter what, God bless each and every one of you, and I hope you have a wonderful night. No matter what's going on with you, keep your faith, keep strong, keep your patience, and everything will turn out. There's always another day and always a new dawn to start whatever you want. Take another chance to forgive, to rebuild, and spread a little love around this world. So without further ado, we're going to land this plane, as Jeff from Pine Island Research likes to say. I crash land most of the time, but we are landing this plane. So everyone, take it easy, and I will see you next time.